Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 4 of the Choose Wisely podcast. I'm your host, Michael Subsky, and with me today, we have a very special guest, my friend, Tobie Azeez. How are you doing today, Tobie?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing all right. So, for those of you who don't know, for all the listeners, the hundreds of thousands of you, Tobie, like I said, very good friend of mine. But today we'll be interviewing Tobie about his journey in entrepreneurship. So, Tobie is working on a few projects right now. We're actually currently in Chicago for the Buckeyes game. And so I thought, what a perfect time to give Tobie a chance to be on the podcast. So one of the projects that Tobie has been currently working on is a company called Claire. And so, Tobie, I'll just start off the podcast here. What is Claire? Explain it to us and kind of tell us what you're doing with it.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Michael, for having me on the podcast. But Claire is a personal hygiene nasal care product. So what we've decided to build within our brand is something that's more proactive for the people that generally have congestion or allergies, or are ultimately just people that really care about their health and wellness. What it literally is so it's a device that operates similarly to an Oral-B electric toothbrush, but rather than brushing your teeth, it has an oscillating cotton tip that gets saturated with saline, and that saline then helps to remove any irritants or allergens or pollen, dust, that might be within your nasal passageways.
No, that is something. How did you get into this? You didn't come up with this yourself, did you? Or how'd you get involved with this?
Yeah, I got involved with this. My dad actually is a physician, internal medicine, and something that they discovered post-operation surgery, where patients that generally have open heart surgery, they end up sometimes getting infected with MRSA. So what they discovered is that the MRSA virus has been living within their initial nares or their nostrils prior to the surgery. So what happens when they have an open wound after the surgery, where everything ended up being fine, they're breathing these viruses into their wound, and that becomes infected.
Oh my.
So what they decided to do is start swabbing noses prior to the surgery and cleaning them out with antiseptic, any type of ointment that might remove those issues there. And they found a significant decrease in the infections post-operation.
And so your product it clears out like the nasal passage essentially?
Essentially, right. So it's not a forced irrigation system. There's other products out there that you actually put in your nose, maybe a neti pot or a squeeze bottle that you squeeze saline and it goes through your entire nasal passage system, right? And it goes out the other side. Our product cleans each nostril individually, one at a time, and it doesn't cleanse your entire nasal passageways going from one nostril out to the other, because our product is meant to be used on a more regular basis. So similarly to how you wouldn't brush your teeth after you get a cavity, it's you brush your teeth on a daily basis so that you can prevent cavities.
And so are you the only person involved in that? Like, how big's the team? Like, right. And I guess I'll take that back a second. When did Claire start? And how big's the team? When did you join? Kind of run me through that.
I would say my journey with the company started around 1.5 to 2 years ago. The company itself started their entire thought process and manufacturing and sketches, drawing, prototypes right around 3 years ago. So I came in about a year after to kind of help lead strategy. So what I've done to lead the strategy about the entire growth and business development of the company is, one, I brought in one of our board advisors. His name is Dr. Zachary Rubin. He's actually here in Chicago. He's an immunologist and allergist. And he has an extensive social media following on both TikTok and Instagram, about 2 million followers with both of those platforms, where he educates all of his followers about anything allergy related. So I understood that he had some synergy with us, where we have a product that we're looking to sell. He already educates his audience on anything allergy related. Why not bring him onto the team so that he can, one, help sell the product, but then have a product in his own portfolio where he can educate and let his audience understand the necessity of cleaning out their nostrils and their noses.
How did you find them? Did they find you? How did you put yourself out there?
Yeah, so I kind of have a knack of being relatively persuasive and, reaching out to people. I don't know if it's the words I say, how I say them or what, but I reached out to Dr. Rubin myself. I reached out to him, maybe even harassed a little bit, right? Where I joined a couple of his TikTok lives. I've already sent him some DMs. Hey, join the team. This is what we're doing with Claire. I think it would really be fun if you were involved. He didn't respond to those DMs, and maybe he didn't see them. So I joined his live though, and I said, hey, Dr. Rubin, I sent you a DM. Dr. Azeez has this product that we would really love for you to be involved in. And right there on the live, he said, oh, hi Tobie, thank you. I'll check my DMs after the live. And then, long story short, he responded and he really liked what we were doing. He wanted to get involved. And at this point, he's posted a few videos on our product, and we have about 1,500 people on the wait list right now that we would not have had he not joined the team.
Cool. So I obviously I told you a little bit about this before the podcast, but I'm making this podcast. So, for example, if the people who are watching this, if you want to be an entrepreneur, right, you would watch this podcast, listen to Tobie, hear what he has to say, and you get a really good idea of what that life kind of looks like. And so with that being said, the question I have for you is, I guess, what are you doing on like a day-to-day basis? Talk about it as much as you want, but
Sure.
What are you doing on a day-to-day basis for Claire? What does your life kind of look like with this? Kind of give them a little bit of insight into, obviously it's not going to be the same because their company is not going to be the same as Claire,
Right.
and their role might not be the same as yours, but kind of, help them out, give them a little showing of what exactly it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so when you're looking to work in a startup, especially if you're part of the founding team, everyone kind of wears multiple hats. I would say on a day-to-day basis, my major involvement is in marketing efforts, distribution, and business development. When I say business development, that is in terms of distribution partners, direct to consumer. Are we going to partner with a Target, a CVS, a Walgreens, communicating with those stakeholders, seeing how we're going to drive growth, fundraising, putting together all the necessary pieces to become fundable and attractive to an investor. So I would say my main thought when I wake up and think about Claire is, how do I make us 1% better, 1 degree better than we were yesterday? How do I get us closer and closer to being a ubiquitous household brand? And that's pretty much my main thoughts on a day-to-day basis. And how do I achieve those? So the execution is 90% of the battle. I would say about 10% is having a good idea, having an idea in general, and reaching your goal of, I want to sell 10,000 units in Q1 2025. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, well, we're going to need to speak to micro-influencers. We're going to need to get them to post on this schedule. We're going to need to create an internal content calendar. We're going to need to create our own content for the product on various social media channels, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube, Facebook. Are we going to run ads? Okay, if we do run ads, what's the customer acquisition cost? What's the cost, COGS, cost of goods sold? Learn all of that in accounting. You're doing that now.
I am the accountant, yeah.
You are the accountant.
Speaking my language, yeah.
Exactly. So what's our customer acquisition cost? What's the cost of goods sold? How much does it cost landed? So shipping, the materials, the box, all of that. And then, okay, once we sell 1 unit, are we making any money on that, or are we losing money on that unit, right? And losing money on a unit doesn't mean you have a terrible business. It just means that you need to scale, because you might be losing money on that unit because if you only purchased from the manufacturer 500 units of the product that you're looking to sell, they may sell you that at a higher price rather than if you purchased 30,000 units, right? So if you purchase 30,000 units, now your cost of goods sold completely, it drops to the floor.
Yeah.
You might be selling for $5 per unit rather than $50 per unit. So dependent on the demand for whatever it is you're selling will help us reduce the amount that we can actually manufacture a unit for, thus increasing the profits. So my main objective in general is to build a profitable business.
So is the plan for this to end up being like a household product that every family just buys, for their families, just to have it, like just do it on like a daily basis with their kids? Like, is that the
Right.
goal? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that our goal is to eventually get in the homes of every American, or at least the 1/3 of Americans that suffer from chronic congestion and allergies. We've done our market research, and that's a number. So we're talking 1/3 of Americans. That's 100 million people that suffer from chronic congestion and allergies. You don't need to be, someone that suffers from chronic congestion before you use a product that can help with that. I don't really suffer from chronic congestion, but at the same time, I've used our Claire device, the prototypes that we have, and I sleep better after I use it. If I use it at night, right? Because I'm breathing better, I end up generally having a better rest, and use it definitely during the day. And you find out that some of the parties that we went to on 16th on the dirt ground, you come home and you clean your nose. I cleaned my nose with a Claire after one of those parties, and there was dirt in my nose, and I don't know how many people are generally cleaning out the inside of their noses in that nature. So
Have you guys, obviously you guys are very new, so this is just me asking, but have you guys done any sort of testing, any sort of clinical trials, anything like that to prove it out? And then how do you communicate that to anyone who is looking to buy? Because I feel like that'd be a big, and then honestly, my next question I was going to ask is what sort of hurdles, regulations have you guys had to, jump through to kind of get the product to where you are right now? And how difficult was it to get through that?
Sure. Well, I'll start with your first question as far as testing and clinical trials. So a lot of qualitative research has been done in terms of people who've used our product, giving us their direct feedback of this is a device that, yes, we can support the claims that you've made. I did breathe better. I did feel less congested after using your product. So we've done market research with Great Lakes Marketing. So I wouldn't call it a clinical trial, but at the same time, qualitative research just to kind of, support the claims that we've made, right? And it is your second question as far as regulation-wise. It's a Class 1 exempt medical device, so 510K, meaning it falls under the qualifications of similar products that have gone through the FDA testing. So as long as we fall into the category of other products that have gone through the entire FDA process, we now are exempt the same way those products are.
Could you explain that last part to me? So what do you mean falling? Like, I'm assuming you mean like falling under the same category of it.
Right.
Of something that has already gone through the testing. So if you fall under the same category of it, you don't have to do any more testing.
Exactly.
Right? Could you explain what that category is? That might be a dumb question, but what exactly is that category that you guys are in?
So the category that we're in is personal medical device with a saline, I wouldn't call it engine, but more so the use. Our product delivers saline, right? So our product on its own doesn't necessarily fulfill all the claims that we offer. We're a delivery device where your toothbrush without toothpaste doesn't do a ton. Your toothbrush helps deliver the paste to your teeth, right? Mm-hmm. So our paste in our case is the saline. So, and saline, of course, is just salt water, right? Where we help to deliver what has already been studied and approved as a product that does remove bacteria from, just from your body in general. That's why you can even clean your wounds with salt water. So that's what our device does, and falls under the category similar to if you want to build a toothbrush, there's already patents out there, and toothbrushes have already gone through a lot of the FDA requirements that as long as you do everything else that those other products do, you would qualify.
Very well explained with the toothbrush. And that made a lot of sense. That kind of added up. So obviously you got Claire, and we'll talk more about that if it comes back to it. But I kind of want to get into
So many people just keep on popping by. But I want to get into how you got here. Like so I remember you told me about this a little bit, and I'm trying to remember exactly, but so you graduated high school,
Yep.
and then did you go to college at all at first? Or
2 years.
For 2 years.
Right.
And then which college were you at?
Wright State University.
Okay. So you were at Wright State for 2 years.
Right.
You dropped out to become you dropped out with the intention of, or like you already knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
That's right.
Okay. So were you working? And so when you dropped out, were you already working on something, already in the process of building something?
100%.
Okay. So I guess my question is, what was it that you were building to drop out?
Right.
To leave college? Because obviously you came back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you building?
So I was in the process of building a restaurant pre-ordering and reservation platform, and that was called SwiftDine. So what SwiftDine was a platform where you would reserve a table at a restaurant with however many people you were looking to dine with, but you would also order your food and pay for it in advance, so that once you reached the restaurant and sat down, the restaurant would just bring your food out because you've already ordered it. And then you can eat and leave whenever you want because you've already paid as well. So what it does is reduce the amount of time that you're waiting in a restaurant. Pretty much all of the fluff that people don't care to do at a restaurant, we can eliminate that. And the good stuff of enjoying the time with your friends and eating the food, you still get all of that. You still get the good hospitality experience. And there's a lot of things that we learned in the process of building the software, using the software, having other people use the software, because everyone has a different experience. So there are times where people said that, well, they actually do sometimes to just enjoy the long wait of going out to eat. It's an entire process. And then, we discovered that, okay, well, maybe SwiftDine works in a particular type of restaurant, maybe not a fine dining restaurant.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Where I'm going out to a graduation party, whatever it might be. Maybe it doesn't really work there. But it works in this scenario. Maybe I'm on my lunch break, where I only have 45 minutes, where it would make a lot of sense for me to order ahead and pre-order, do all of those things on my lunch break because I only have 45 minutes. So I can give you the rundown of basically how all of it started. Maybe that'll help. I came up with the idea of SwiftDine. It was actually called Dine Perfect, junior year of high school. I was 17 in my little notebook. I probably still had the notes on my phone. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but real quick, if you don't mind, I'll show you.
You can even send me a screenshot of it, and I could put it up on the video, because obviously we have videos going, so I can put it up on the video aspect.
Great.
But yeah.
So I got my notes. This is junior year in high school, 17-year-old, writing just what intelligent dining.
Yeah.
Intelligent dining was the software of what it was called. So I came up with that in high school. And then I didn't have any funding. I wasn't able to raise any capital as a 17-year-old in Lima, Ohio, funny enough. So I did go to college. I studied finance. That's what I was studying at Wright State, finance and economics. And I still wanted to pursue this product. And I continued with it. No funding. I just kept on building the wireframes, more so the design. That's design. So it's not development, but what the app would look like, the functionality. I'm essentially a product manager at heart. I know how to build systems for efficiency. And I ended up running into Nick Cannon at Waffle House right there on Colonel Glenn Road at Wright State, Fairborn, Ohio. And he was there for a Wild 'N Out concert. I'm at this point 20 years old. So I'm in college. And I went up to him and was like, hey, Nick, can I tell you about my company that I started? He was like, yeah, sure. What do you got, kid? Essentially. And I'm like, hey, look, I have this platform. It's called SwiftDine. It's pre-ordering food. You reserve a table and da-da-da. It's it's what I want to do for my life. He's like, that's really sweet. I would love to work with you. Here's my phone number. Contact my assistant. I cannot remember her name at this point, but either way, contact my assistant and we'll set up something in LA. So I was ecstatic, right? I'm a 20-year-old kid, rented into Canada. He wants to fly me out to LA to tell him and pitch him my product. So that's what happened. That's literally what happened. I flew out to Los Angeles from Dayton, Ohio, Fairborn, Dayton, Beaver Creek, all in the same area. put on my little suit, went out, spoke to Nick Cannon, pitched him on a, fat TV at Universal Studios with one of his managers. We took our pictures, and from there, I ended up raising about, not just from him, but friends and family, because of people are taking it more serious now, about $600,000 at 20 years old for the company. And it was at that point that I decided to drop out, right? Because now I have an obligation to pursue this company head on, and do to my best effort what I could do for the company and hopefully return some capital to the investors and build a brand and build a company. That's what we're looking to do. So I moved to LA, 20 years old, October. I was in LA for 2 years building the company, and we ended up hiring 2 salespeople. One was in Chicago and one was in Atlanta. So we had about 75 restaurants between the 2 cities, between Chicago and Atlanta, Georgia. Because of those 70 restaurants in Chicago, I had 2 choices. I could have moved to Atlanta, I could have moved to Chicago. Chicago is about a 4-hour drive from my hometown, Lima, Ohio. We decided to move to Chicago. So 2016, I moved to LA, 2018, Chicago. So 2018, I moved to Chicago. I started meeting with the restaurants that we have, using the software, understanding it from a real personal point of view, understanding who it's for, who it's not for, boots on the ground, really doing this thing. And it was great. People were enjoying it. They were using it, revenue, all of that, using the software. So that's when, we grew to about 150, of course, between those 2 cities. We found a new distribution model because there was a problem where restaurants wanted to use our software, but at the time there was a real restaurant boom with delivery. That's when DoorDash was taking off. Amazon even had their own delivery platform. You had DoorDash, you had Caviar. Caviar was more of a high-end food delivery platform where they only signed, 4- and 5-star restaurant types of situation. If you had Uber Eats, of course, Uber already had the distribution with the drivers, so it was easy for them to add an Eats option where the drivers would then just deliver food. So either way, restaurants had 5 tablets across their restaurant. They had an Uber, a DoorDash tablet, a Caviar tablet, a Postmates. I don't know if that people always remember Postmates.
Yeah. Where did Postmates go? Yeah.
I don't know. I think they went public and then they kind of plateaued as far as market cap from there. But either way, there was a really big restaurant delivery boom, and an incentive for the restaurants to get your platform was, you have a ton of users. That's going to drive traffic to my restaurant. Yeah. Now, but if you don't have a ton of users, they don't take you as seriously. And then the users don't take you as seriously if you don't have a ton of restaurants on your platform. So probably about a year or so, year and a half into living in Chicago, building the brand, understanding it, we came up with this SMS distribution model where a lot of times when you go to restaurants, they put you on a wait list anyway. So rather than you download, they call it native. So an app that you download on your phone is a native app. Then you also have a web app that isn't native to iOS or Android that anyone can use as long as they can, have internet access. So I digress. I say all that to say that we built a web app version of Swiftdine where anyone could use it. They didn't have to download the app.
Yeah.
The restaurant would just text you an order link. So once you got to the restaurant, put your name on the list, they would text you an order link where you could then still order your food and reserve your spot in line because you're on the wait list anyway. So you still got the Swiftdine experience. And we found that increased revenue 200-300% because the restaurant was pushing our product for us. We didn't have to market to 2 different entities now because initially we had to market to users of downloading our app. We also had to market to the restaurant industry. So now we only had to sign restaurants and ask them to send out. You already put people on the wait list anyway. Just send out an order link when people are on the wait list, and that'll turn tables faster. That's the incentive for that.
Yeah,
because they're now in the same hour period, maybe turning 1.5 tables rather than that 1. So that's going to increase revenue if you extrapolate that for the year, a crazy amount, right? For them at least. And then unfortunately, everyone suffered from 2020 COVID.
Yeah.
And restaurants shut down across the board. We had a major pivot, and there were some other things involved with Swiftdine where we pivoted that. But we'll go on to your next question, and maybe we could circle back to
you guys just how does the process go of stopping an app or your guys' company like that? Was it so? Did you guys I'm honestly, I'm kind of asking, like, how did that process go down?
So what happened was we found another use case with existing technology on our platform because we had SMS distribution now. So beyond just sending an order link, you could send any type of link. You could send a payment link. That's actually what we did. So we pivoted the company to Zemo, kind of close to my last name, Azeez, where any business, that wanted to send out an invoice could use our product, our platform, to text invoices to their customers. And we did this because there was a lot of social distancing with COVID. So businesses didn't necessarily want people coming in and swiping cards. So from wherever you were at, a business could send you a text message invoice with our SwiftDine platform that pivoted to Zemo, and then you could pay from a distance away. And I would say our largest client that adopted the software was Tillamook Country Smoker. They were $100 million, well, still are, $100 million beef jerky brand based out of Oregon. Based out of Oregon, right? And so that's what we did. And the software, it was really cool with the invoices. And there was something I came up with that we haven't implemented yet, and maybe we implement in the future.
Oh, so you're still working on this company?
Yeah, I still work on Zemo. That's in the back end. But I came up with this concept called the Zemo engine. And what that is, because everything was manual. Like if I owned a business, I wanted to send a text message invoice, I would go on the platform and literally manually send that to my customer. But we were approached by Zipcar. Are you familiar with Zipcar? Mm-mm. So Zipcar has these car rentals, this like a on-demand car rental service for people that live in a city, don't have a car, but need it for maybe 1 hour. So it's not like I'm renting a car for 3 days or going on vacation. No, I literally just need a car because I'm going to this thing and I need it for an hour. I'm going to drop it off. So anyway, that's what they did. So they would email invoices to their customers, I think every week, and it was around 300,000 invoices weekly. And our business model was to charge $1 per invoice. It was a flat rate, $1. So they contacted us. And I looked at that like, wow, this is an extreme, money-making opportunity. If they're sending 300,000 invoices weekly, that's $1.2 million in revenue for us every month, right? Should they use our platform completely? The problem was it was manual. So that's where I came up with the Zemo engine, where it was an automated API that connected to your CRM, right? Where anytime an invoice was allocated or published on your platform, not on our platform, the Zemo engine would communicate with that and automatically send the invoice to whoever the person that invoiced it, whoever needed to pay that invoice. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't built, still not built, so we couldn't work with Zipcar because no one could manually send 300,000 invoices on a weekly basis.
Is it very tough to create that automation engine or the Zemo engine?
Right.
And so but you weren't able to completely build that out as much as you wanted to, and that's why you couldn't go into business with the Zipcar?
That's right.
Okay. So I guess, are you close to building that out? I know you said it's on the back end, but are you still trying to build that out? Is that what is on the back end, building out that engine?
On the back end of building that, well, this is what I found out. In payment processes in America or really any country, there's few large banks and institutions that dictate how things are going to go.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but like, what's that payment processing app called? Square?
Well, there's Square, there's Stripe.
Yeah, Stripe. Okay, so I remember seeing that. I don't know the whole story with that, but that there was no competition in that space because it's so difficult to like actually form a company in that space. Is that am I correct with that? And so is that the problem that you kind of had? Which is the reason why there's not a lot of competition in that space?
Right. There's a ton of regulations when it comes to payment processing. Yeah. So your best bet is to partner with an existing juggernaut in the industry, which could be a Stripe, it could be a Flutterwave. I don't know. I don't think Flutterwave was actually purchased by Stripe, but a lot of these big institutions, they buy out smaller guys and and then that's how they survive. But in this point in time, I think it would be best to partner with a Flutterwave, a Stripe, a Square, and offer the technology to them. And if they run with it, I think, it would be a good idea for them.
Yeah. So you were at Wright State for 2 years and you dropped out, right? Mm-hmm. And it was because of the investment that you got, right?
Right.
Do you think if that investment never happened, like you never met Nick Cannon, do you think you still would have dropped out of college eventually? Or do you think you probably would have stayed in college just working on the business?
I would have stayed in college. I had already, got transferred to IU. So I never did go to IU. But my options were drop out, go to IU from Wright. So I know I got in and whatever, got into Kelly, whatever it is. That's their business school. And so I was planning to just go there. I wasn't planning to drop out. If I never received an investment, I would have just stayed in school because there was only 2 years left. Gone into finance and maybe gone to investment banking was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I always wanted to be entrepreneurial. And my dad, like I mentioned, he's a physician, but if he was born in the United States, he was born in Nigeria. He said himself that he would be a businessman. He probably wouldn't have gone into medicine. He would have done something with business. And that's why he starts these companies now and does real estate and all of that. So I wanted to be in investment banking. I would have done that. At the same time, I would have started some company. I would have done something, whether it be Swift On or something else, where I'm building my own thing.
And you've been an entrepreneur for your entire life. Have you always been this kind of guy? Always dreading the 9 to 5?
All the time. I mean, I was selling candy out of my locker in high school, making money there. I had friends. We were, all doing the different things.
Yeah.
Right. Just everything entrepreneurial, whatever it was. Investing. I learned how to invest in the high school. I got on the Facebook IPO 2012. I would have been like 16 years old at the time. I mean, I've always, had a portfolio since I was 16 years old.
Okay, so hold on, my mic's a little bit too loud. So obviously I do eventually, they don't know, but I eventually want to be asking about tag. Yeah. But as I have explained a little bit, this podcast is all to help out the younger people who have no idea what they want in this life, right? So I guess before I ask about tag and we keep talking more business, I want to know what pieces of advice, because there's a ton of kids out there who just want to be an entrepreneur. They're like me. They just don't really want that 9 to 5.
Right.
Or they're obviously no one really wants 9 to 5. It'd be great to have your own business, but what pieces of advice would you give to those kids like that who are just, they know they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know what route they want to go. They don't know what business. They don't even know how to think of a business that would be viable. They don't know how to decide. Say they come up with an idea, they don't even know how to decide if it's an idea worth pursuing. Sure. Give us some advice that you would tell those kids who are just itching to get into it.
Yeah, so I have a family friend that's a younger brother of mine. He's about 17 years old. And I tell him, if you want to start something, start where you see inefficiencies in operations. Anything where you say, man, I wish it was this way. Why is this so difficult? And if you can notice that other people find difficulty in whatever it is you're complaining about, find out how to improve that. Whatever that thing is, if you can make it a little bit better even. Or if you need to create an entire operation to reduce the amount of friction involved with a task that everyone has to do, improve that. I mean, go all the way back to the early 1900s. I think it was maybe 1908 when the Model T was launched by Henry Ford. What did he do? All right, well, people. I think he had the question. Do you want something around? If you ask people what they want, a car, a horse, they say they would rather just a faster horse, right? You almost don't let them decide. You have to give them something because there's an end goal of what people need. They're not really buying the product, they're buying the benefits. People buy an iPhone because of the end result of what you get. What do you get once you have these tools? right? It's the same thing about a hammer. Most people, you don't need a drill. You just need a quarter-inch hole in the wall. That's what you need. You don't need a drill. If somehow you can put a quarter-inch hole in the wall by just looking at it with your eyes, that's what people would do. But a drill helps you to do those things, but I don't need a drill. I need a quarter-inch hole in the wall, right? So either way, the advice I would give to kids is, where do you see people having issues in life, and can you fix those issues? And if it's millions of people, you can make millions or potentially billions of dollars, depending on how difficult or how annoying that problem is that you're helping people solve.
So this is a problem that I've always had is like, what if I'm just not noticing inefficiencies and I'm just kind of at a stalemate with my wanting to become an entrepreneurship journey, right?
Right.
Because that, at least for me, that has always been like my biggest problem is I have I can go on my phone, it's recording obviously, but I have a notes page or a notes app with a page with like 125 business ideas. And there's a few that I like, but like before I forced myself to create that entire list, I was always thinking about ideas, but I could never think of something that, one, I liked, but two, that I genuinely believed would make money or actually had a shot at making money.
Sure.
Or was even possible for me to make. So what do you say to the kids who are at a stalemate, who are just trying to think of a business plan, trying to think of a business idea? What would you tell them to do? Is there anything you would tell them to do, or just keep going on the track that they're on?
If you can't see where there are issues in the world, I would ask them to really to sit down, to really sit down and think about, if everything is perfect, then why are other businesses being created in general? Because things aren't perfect, right? There's always improvement to be made in life in general. And sometimes it's a big grandiose operation like the Boring Company or SpaceX, like Elon Musk is doing to help people with, basically transatlantic travel. Right? Now that's a huge thing if you can solve that. If I can get to, we're here in Chicago, if I can get to Los Angeles on a bullet train in 3 hours or 2 hours, amazing. I'm not asking you to do something that major, but at the same time, you can look locally, even locally. Okay, how many people need their driveways power washed in your neighborhood? These are kids we're talking about at this point, right? And then you just get on a map. How many
kids? I would say before college, my range demographic that I'm thinking would watch this podcast to kind of get an idea of what it's like to do whatever the guest is doing. I would say is like sophomore year of high school, freshman year of high school when you're starting to first think about college.
Right.
So yeah, that'd be like the age demographic.
Like 14 to 21 or 14 to 20 type of situation. Yeah, I mean, everyone has issues somewhere where I've always heard people say, no, this sucks, or I wish this thing was different. Make it better. I don't think that there's even now, there's times in my life I'm like, well, I wish this were this way, or I wish this was better, this was faster, that type of thing. I think there's always something there where you can find a problem that can be fixed. And honestly, with AI nowadays, if you really are at a wall and you can't think, I would get on Gemini, ChatGPT, any of those other platforms and just type in, what are major problems that tens of thousands or millions of people suffer from in this day and age? I'm sure it's going to give you some answers.
How did you, okay. So obviously am I wrong to say that the two major projects or two major focuses in your life right now are Tag and Claire, right?
I would say so.
So I know Tag, and you know what? Yeah, we'll start off with this. What is Tag exactly? Because I have a question about Tag and Claire in terms of like your entrepreneurship journey.
Sure.
Like, what is Tag? And how did you think of it? Because this is a business that you thought of yourself, right?
Exactly. So this is a nice segue into your last question about coming up with ideas. Pretty much everything that I've started came from a problem that I had in real life. right? So tag is a platform in general. We'll get into the details, but a platform where you can connect with a complete stranger. You don't know their name, where they're from, anything, discreetly in person. That's the point. That's what the software does. Now, packaged all together with the branding and the logos and the copy and the detail of how we present tag, it is now a dating app, right? But the technology remains the same. I am here to connect with someone in person right now so that I can talk to them in person right now. Because we're not Sims with details of who we are hovering above our heads. Unless I ask someone their name, I won't know. So the problem that I ran into with tag is my cousin and I, this is 2015, I came up with this concept. We're talking 9 years ago. Just thought about it. I never pursued it at the time. But either way, my cousin and I were at a restaurant, and there was a girl at a table with her mom, her dad, her grandparents, and, the whole family. I'm like, she's checking us out, whatever. She's, looking at us and everything. I'm like, how do you communicate with this person right now? There's options. There are options. I can go up to the table and say, "Excuse me, father, can I get your daughter's name?" Right? That's an option. There's no physical barrier for me doing that. There's mental barriers.
Yeah.
There's emotional barriers. Maybe there is a physical barrier if the dad decided to block, there may be. Either way, that's not realistic. No one's going to do that. That's never happened. So I'm like, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if there was an app where I could just tag that person? At the time, it was actually called Proxy Link for proximity and link. It's kind of a geeky name. Either way, where I could tag somebody that's in the immediate vicinity of where I am. They can see who is looking to communicate with them. If they too want to communicate with me, they can tag me back, right? And at that point, we're talking now. You're a complete stranger. You're no longer a complete stranger. So there's no actual text messaging on the app because we want you to meet in person. And that's what the other dating apps lack. So if I go on Hinge, Tinder, Bumble, Raya, all of those platforms, you become pen pals with the people you connect with because they're 3, 4, 5, 20 miles away. Maybe we set up a date. It's not organic. We're going to talk on the app. You have a general idea of who I am. You saw some check marks. Oh, 6 feet tall. These are my pictures, real surface level, things that you know about me. Maybe you know my job. All right. How old I am. Great. You don't know my mannerisms. You don't know my voice. You don't know how I smile. You don't know what I laugh at, my humor. You don't know those things. Now with tag, you can get a better idea. One, you can't get catfished because the person is in the room with you. So you already know what they look like. You know how tall they are. You know their mannerisms, how they walk, how they speak, what they look like in person, all of that. You know that already. So we're pushing and hoping for tag to be the next evolution of what a dating app can be because outside of just using it at the restaurant, in my case, you can use it at festivals. You can use it at sporting events. You can use it at the grocery store. You can use it at the gym because no one wants to be approached at the gym. Okay, let me not approach you. Let me tag you, and you can tell me if you want to be approached. And now I'm going up to you. And it's funny enough, I tested out the concept of tag before we decided to build it because another thing for the kids out there, try to build prototypes of the concepts that you're looking to spend money on and years of your life to build prior to building out the actual product so that you can validate whether or not this is a real thing people want. So my prototype was AirDrop. It already existed. So if I'm close, if you're close enough to somebody, you can AirDrop your phone number, whatever. You can AirDrop a message, a picture, anything you want to someone else that also has an iPhone, that also has AirDrop on. So either way, I tested out that concept in general, and it worked out where the person thought that.
You tagged a girl?
Yeah.
Or not tagged her, you airdropped a girl? Okay. How did you know that her phone was or did you just airdrop every single person?
Right. So there are ways about it where one, a lot of times I think airdrop only works if your phone screen is on and unlocked. So what you can do is, all right, you have whatever message you're looking to airdrop to someone, and you wait to see what name pops up when that person turns their phone on. So like, okay, so there was already 4 names maybe on the airdrop thing, And when this person opened their phone, a fifth name came up. So like, okay, that's probably the person.
Yeah.
So it's still a gamble, right?
Yeah.
It's still a gamble.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh God, you said something about tag before I asked that question. I wanted to. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what I had. I had a question about it. Here, give me 2 seconds because I know it was a good question. I wanted to ask it. Oh, okay. All right. So you are in a restaurant or you're at a bar, right?
Right.
And you see a girl and you're like, oh, she's cute. I want to tag her. So you go on this app and do you have to like scroll through all the people in the vicinity until you see her? Is that kind of how it works? Or like, does your phone somehow, is it listening to you? Does it know what you want? It just immediately shows you, yeah, this is the girl that you were looking at. How does that work?
It's a good question. So the radius of the amount of people that you can see within tag is a half mile. All those other apps are between 1 mile and 100 miles. So it maxes out at a half mile. And then the order of the profiles are in proximate order. So the closest person to you physically will be the first person in the list of profiles, right? So if she is all the way across the bar and there's 100 girls in this bar that have tag, you're gonna be scrolling until you find her picture, right? But once you do find the picture, you're gonna tag her. She's gonna see you. She doesn't have to scroll at this point because she's gonna get the notification that you tagged her. And if she wants to talk to you, she'll tag you back. And then you can just go up and talk to her, right? And this isn't necessarily something that everyone needs to use. I'm pretty outgoing. I'll just go up to you if I want to talk to you in a bar.
That's what I was, that's kind of what I was going to ask about next, but keep going.
There's been times where I thought a girl had a boyfriend because there was a guy talking to her at a bar and I'm like, oh yeah, she got a boyfriend. I'm not going to interrupt them. And then an hour later, I see her not with this guy anymore. I'm like, oh, she didn't have a boyfriend to begin with. And so now with tag, it's also just another platform that lets you see some data. Because data as in, I would have known she's single if she was on the platform. And I'm in my head now thinking that she's not single, but because I don't have the data telling me that she is. So I might not even use tag to the full extent of literally tagging her. I might get on there just to see who in this bar is single.
Yeah.
Right? And the girl vice versa. Maybe women don't know you're single, but they can go on there and be like, oh, this guy does not have a girlfriend because he's on tag. And women generally don't go up to guys. Most of the time they don't. But
if they do, that means that's a pretty good sign for the guy, I would say.
Pretty good sign. You know, they give you some signals. They look at you hard. They look at you for a while, give you the stare. But with tag, it gives them an opportunity to discreetly let a guy know, I want to talk to you, and they're not getting embarrassed in their face. They're not finding out that you got a girlfriend. They're not getting shut down because no one but you and that girl even know that she tagged you.
Do you think, because I've thought about this and I feel like I've heard girls say this before too, but do you think there's any magic being lost if a girl uses tag instead of, waiting for the guy to come up to her? I feel like to what I've heard girls say, like they want a guy who's brave enough to just go up to him and talk to him.
Right.
Obviously, sometimes girls don't really know exactly what they want.
Right. A lot of single girls said that, right?
Yeah, a lot of single.
Where's their man at?
That's true. Yeah. But so that's kind of what I was thinking about is does that magic get lost at all, you think?
So let's look at it from a standpoint of reality, where there are really millions of people on Hinge right now. There are actually millions of people that use it. I think 50 million people have Tinder. Millions of people have Bumble. So, okay, people are already matching on there and then eventually meeting up. So let's look at it from a magic losing standpoint of what's really happening. If people are really using those platforms and actually still meeting up, and our platform allows you to meet that person faster, more efficiently, and in person, I would say we're increasing the magic of what is really happening. Now, if we go back to the 70s of where there was no iPhone, there was none of that, there's no Instagram, tag might be a magic losing situation in the old times. But we're in 2024 where people are using...
Magic's already lost with those apps.
Lost.
And so now you're bringing it back.
Exactly. I'm increasing the amount of magic that has already been lost due to Instagram becoming a dating app, right, at this point. It's disguised as a picture sharing platform, but it's not. And then, of course, the dating apps that call themselves dating apps. I would say that we're increasing the magic from what people are already using.
No, I like that answer. That's actually a very good way to put it, I think. Because I honestly didn't realize that many people are using those dating apps, but that does make sense. If the magic's already been lost with those dating apps, I mean, you are kind of bringing it back to more of like an in-person aspect of it.
Right.
I like, yeah, that was a good answer. I was gonna ask about tag. So is this, I know, at least because for those of you who don't know, I met Tobie at Ohio State when I was there. And so at least when we were at Ohio State, this was solely a college campus app that you wanted to start it out at.
Right.
So now I think Braden was telling me that now you're moving it not to college campuses. Now you're just going to try and kind of do it by like city base kind of. How did you decide on that? If that is true.
You're right. So that is definitely true. We're going to launch city by city based on the amount of demand there is in that city for tag. And we have a wait list where we can see how many people in Chicago have it, how many people in New York have it. And then we'll unlock that city if we see a high enough density of people, of users. Now, the reason why I wanted to release it from not just colleges, but everyone, the more and more research I do on how many people are single at advanced ages, advanced compared to our parents, right? I think my mom was maybe had her first kid, my older brother at, 24 or something like that.
Oh yeah, people are getting married. I don't know if this is where you're going, but people are just getting married way later.
Way later.
Oh yeah.
Biology is still the same though.
Yeah, less and less people are even like dating. Less and less people are having sex these days.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. So your app is bringing it back. I like it.
We want to bring it back, and I'm seeing the data where people are complaining left and right every single day how hard it is, and there's articles about, I think New York was the number one worst city to date in. Meanwhile, the most attractive people live in New York. Objectively.
Why is New York though? Did you read?
Why is it?
Did it explain why New York is such a bad spot to date?
I would say that there is a paradox of options. So there's not really as many options as you would like to think there are. So if you are, an outstanding man, for instance, maybe you think that you have
high value man,
right? Whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
You might think that you have a ton of options, which you do, but do you like all of those people? No, you might want to hook up with them, but which one of those would you want to make the mother of your children? Probably very few of those women, right? And then women on the other hand of the table, really attractive women. The problem is they deserve in our not like archaic, but our primal way of human beings. They would like a provider, a man that can do, provide for the family. And that's what I would want to do for my family. I want to be able to provide for my wife, my kids, do everything I want to do.
As well. Yeah.
Right. So if you're an attractive woman or any woman in general, you're looking for a man that can do those things. And unfortunately, there are way more beautiful women than there are men that can support them.
You think so?
I think so. It's hard to come across even a man that makes $100,000.
All right. Well, now straying a little bit away from like a college kid advice podcast, but I love this topic. Some of my friends know that I really enjoy talking about like the state of the world in terms of like relationships and dating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you think that there are more beautiful women out there than there are high value men, I guess? Or so you think that there are more women in like 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s compared to men who are considered 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s?
If we're going from a standpoint of physical attraction of the women 7, 8, 9s, and 10s, and then the man finances plus attraction, yes. Now, I would say that there's probably an equal number of physical appearance men 7, 8, 9s, and 10s as there are women. But the older you get, the less important that is. From what I see, society.
Wait, the more older you get, the less what?
The less important it is for a man to be physically attractive.
Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense because the other factors come into play once you get a little
like
older,
finances.
Money. Yeah, okay. So,
because if you're a man, a 30-year-old man, and you're making $30,000 a year in New York, one, you're almost homeless. If you're making 30,000 a year,
you are.
You're homeless at that point. But you're a 10 out of 10 physical looks. I don't know any 8, 9, or 10 woman in New York that's going to want to date you. That is also 30.
Honestly, I kind of know the stats behind this though, but so it's like, women who date men who make less money than them, they're less likely to stay together. Like women inherently, biologically, they want a man who makes more than them and is able to provide for them.
Right.
And so you combine that, like women lose attractiveness when a man makes less than them. You combine that with the fact that more and more women are going to college each and every year.
Right.
And then less and less men are going to college each and every year. So obviously if you have a college degree, you have, for the most part, obviously, entrepreneurs can make a lot of money without going to college. But for the most part, the people who go to college make more money than the people who don't.
Right.
More women are going to college than more men are.
Exactly.
Then the market is moving away from each other.
It's getting harder and harder.
Yeah. And then I also saw this. This was unbelievable. I didn't realize this, but apparently men are getting shorter, women are getting taller. That didn't realize that. Yeah. So, and obviously women like taller men.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
There's just so many, for some reason these days, there's so many factors going against like how we are supposed to be dating, how we're supposed to be, finding the one, so to speak.
Right.
And so I love that you are creating an app that is bringing that back. Right. That's awesome. And I think you actually are. I think people are starting to realize that it's a problem. And so maybe this could be, one of those right place, right time where you create a business that really is filling a need that people are starting to realize.
I really do hope so. And something that,
grab my jacket, but you keep going.
Something that I've noticed, people in person care less about their check boxes in terms of who they're looking to date. On a dating app, it's easiest to dismiss someone, right? If they're not 6 feet tall, in some cases, they immediately left swipe, right? That's what happens. Now, in person, though, you could be a 5'8" dude in the bar and pull a girl that would absolutely not talk to you if she saw you on a dating app, just based off of the data that she's reading about who you are. Because there's assumptions made. Oh, he might be the X, Y, or Z because of the things that I've read. But they see you in person and they hear how you speak. They like the way you carry yourself. You can't see how someone carries themselves on an app, but you can see that in person. So, I think that this can actually help relationships. I generally do believe tag can.
I think, okay. We can cut this part out, but do you mind if I give you my honest opinion?
Sure.
Okay. So I think that there are apps that have been created in the past where a majority of people see those apps, they see what the app is like designed to do, and they immediately are like, there's no chance that could ever work. And so, some of those apps end up not working because, it is a high risk, high reward kind of thing. So what I think is, I don't necessarily think that tag is like going to blow up, but I'm saying, I think if there was ever a time to create an app that fixes a problem like this, it would be right now. And so I think you might have really good timing creating an app like this, because I think a lot of people are starting to realize, like, dating apps kind of suck. Just doing it all over the phone, it's so superficial.
Right.
But at the end of the day, oh God, I want to remember how these stats worked, but less and less men in general are just approaching women each and every day. Women understand that they want the man to make the first move, but men are scared of making the first move, either whether it's being seen as creepy, being seen as, or honestly, the whole like Me Too movement kind of scares men from wanting to go after women. And so I think you are actually fulfilling not a need. It's not really a niche need, because it's relationships in general are for everyone wants to be in a relationship. Everyone wants to find the one. Right. I think you actually are in this little lane this little lane that I think you actually, I think if you do, basically what I'm trying to get at is that if you do succeed, you're going to blow up. Like, I think it'll be massive.
Amen.
And I love that you're taking that kind of a risk. And I think kind of like how I was saying, less and less men are approaching, but men also don't want to be on dating apps because dating apps freaking suck.
Right.
Dating apps suck because, there's way more men on them than women. Women also don't even want to be on the dating app. They just use it as like a validation sort of thing. Right. And so I think if your app making it to where it's not like a validation thing, because if a girl tags you back, like you're coming up to them, like you've decided, the girl has decided that like this guy is coming to them.
Right. They gave me the green light.
And so I think that you actually have found a niche need in the relationship market, but that niche need could blow up.
You're 100% correct where it needs to blow up to be successful.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing.
It is all or nothing brand, because if you don't have enough women on there,
right,
then the men aren't going to join. But if and that's why I kind of liked how you were starting on college campuses, go to all the sorority houses, get all the sorority girls on the apps. All the guys at those colleges are going to join. I think
AFEs get on the app.
Yeah, AFEs, DGs, everyone get on the tag app. But I think it's, and I think obviously you probably know this, that it's not the men that's going to be the hard problem to get on there. It's the women.
It's the women. And from what I see, at least, I don't know if it's my For You page or it's actually what's happening. Men definitely complain about relationships, but I mostly see women complain. And this isn't young girls. It's not like 22-year-olds. They don't complain. They're having fun. They're going.
Yeah, they're still hot. Yeah, they're good looking.
Yeah, they get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And but like the 28-year-olds, 30-year-old women, they're definitely still good looking. They're hot, but now they're ready for the next stage of life. The next stage of life is, they want a family, they want a kid, they want all these things, and they can dictate less of that. You can't make a man give you a kid, right? I think there was a lot of, not necessarily dictating, but getting a lot of what they wanted younger. You're 22 years old, girl, you get a lot of things. There's a lot of guys contacting you. There's a lot of guys contacting you too when you're 20. I'm 28, by the way, or 30. Are they contacting you for the right things? Do they just want to hook up? Do they want to start a family?
Wait, are you saying the men contacting the girl, or are you talking?
Well, no, I'm just saying in both cases, men are still contacting women, but it's on like Instagram and those things, and they still approach. But my point is, the older they get, the more complaints that I hear from women. So I think that they will be interested in joining the apps. Is my point. That's where I was kind of landing on.
You think that the older women get that? You think that they're more likely to join an app like Tag?
100%.
So that, would you say that's the reason why you've moved away from college campuses, like a younger crowd?
Since graduating, I'm not on campus anymore.
Of course, yeah.
It's harder for me to push any type of event on campus. I'm like, what's a 28-year-old, first of all, even doing on campus, let alone speaking to 21-year-old college girls? I mean, of course, my intention is to blow up an app. It's not like I'm looking to talk to them. But at the same time, I just see the issues running deep with the 25 plus demographic. They all want boyfriends in these big cities. I've lived in Los Angeles, Chicago. I go to New York a lot. So my point of view is from these bigger cities. I don't know what's going on in, Tuscaloosa, Tennessee. I don't know what's going on, or wherever that is.
Yeah.
So either way, they want boyfriends, and the guys want girlfriends too. And like you said, the guys aren't going up. They're not approaching as often because they don't want to look creepy. I saw like a girl scream in a guy's face one time because he just like walked up behind her, tapped her on the shoulder, like trying to say hello, screamed like she saw a ghost. So no one wants that.
I'm always confused because men have obviously always approached women. I'm confused. Is it actually more difficult like nowadays to approach a woman because like they're more scared or they're more, protective of themselves compared to like back in the day? Or are men just like bigger wusses these days and like they're just scared of rejection? Like, yeah. I honestly can't tell. I can't tell if it's on the girls or if guys have just gotten.
I think that good-looking dudes have gotten super complacent, and they're getting everything they want.
Because they have all the,
everything you want. Yeah.
Instagram and stuff gives you a whole bunch of options if you're a good-looking guy. Yeah. Do you think
They're not going out of their way.
Yeah. Do you think having these apps that give you more options, do you think that helps?
It's an issue.
I think it's an issue.
It's a problem because right now, and Hinge has tried to address the problem where on both sides now, both men and women, they have a long queue of matches. You can't even get to all of them, right? You have this long queue of, first of all, you go on Hinge, you have so many likes. So then you have to go through, all right, who liked me? Do I want to match with this person? And then you have a queue of matches. How are you setting up dates with all these matches? These dates aren't free, first of all, right? It's, depending on how old you are, what city you live in. If you're going to a restaurant, you're talking, $200 per date, minimum. And we don't have a queue on Tag. There's no queue. I'm here in person right now. I'm going to match and talk to you right now. There's no queue, a long line of people I'm looking to talk to in the moment, at least, right? So that is an issue where you have option paralysis on Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, where we try to eliminate that as much as possible on Tag.
How do you motivate girls to want to download Tag? Or what's the strategy behind that? What's the strategy behind getting the people that you need on the app?
I would say the process of how Tag operates in general has been a big motivator for women that know about it. Right now, our issue is distribution. I wish I had a megaphone and could just tell the world this is what we've built. But every woman that I've told about Tag, unless they're just being nice to me, has been like, this platform is awesome. I would love to use this. This is amazing. Can I download it right now? Is it available? But it's just long list of I want to use this thing. I think that they are really interested in, again, meeting men and men meeting women organically in person. They're over the apps at this point. They use them out of necessity because they can't be single forever. People can't be, they would rather a significant other. So they get on the apps just because that's what's available right now. And then Instagram is, of course, available. So that's another way of, I don't use dating apps. Yeah, but you use Instagram, you get DMs, and you may even DM other. Either way, I digress. But I think the motivator is men will no longer be wusses because you've given them the green light to come say hello.
Yeah.
Now men are approaching you. And I've seen, again, the complaints of, man, you could be having the worst day of your life, and then the ugliest person you've ever seen in your life sends you a rose on Hinge, and you're like this is the end of the world. It's like they don't see any of the type of guys that they're looking for on Hinge, but in the real world, they see them all the time. They're like, on the here in Chicago, we have along the highway, where you can run. And they see good looking dudes there, blah, blah, blah. They go to where our financial district is. So if they want Wall Street guys or finance guys, go around there.
Yeah.
Have them tag you. If that's the kind of guy you want. So be in the places of the type of guys you want to see, and they can talk to you right then and there. That's the motivator.
Man, I like it. So how are you? So I think I remember Braden saying that you're creating wait lists for each city for people to get on the apps.
Yep.
How's that process going? Are you just reaching out to girls on Instagram, stuff like that? Are you going up? Are you just telling people about it, hoping word of mouth type of thing? What's the plan to kind of get people to want to get started on an app that isn't necessarily available to them?
Right. So I want to build an army of micro influencers that generally speak about date nights, date woes, dating in New York, dating in Chicago, about 30, 40, 50 of them that say, hey, look, let's put an end to this. We're done here with all those other apps. They're not working, meeting in person, joining this club, I joined a run club, didn't meet anybody, whatever it may be. Get an army of these, mostly women, to post about it. Because like you said, once the women are on there, the guys are just going to join because they're horny. So they're going to join. So I'm not worried about guys getting on there. But anyway, an army of them to speak about this new platform is amazing. You can get on there, meet people in person, tag this person. You can approach a guy now without approaching him because you could just tag him. And then if he wants to talk to you, he'll tag you back. And if he doesn't, he won't, and no one even knows. Speak about it. And then like you pretty much word of mouth. So I want to leverage social media though, the virality of TikTok essentially.
Yeah.
To push, our agenda of download tag, use tag. If you want to find it, it's Tag You're It. There's another app on there called like Tagged. That's not us. Anyway.
I was gonna ask, so what about at least for me, what if you made it so that you limited the amount of men who were able to get on the app? You know what I'm saying? Like not just letting the app be flooded with men like right from the beginning. What if you kind of bottlenecked it for like the men to get on it first? Like, because at least for me, like the way I would think of it, if there was an app where there was like 100 women on it and there were 0 men, and I could just download it and be like one of one.
Yeah.
And it'd be I'd immediately fall in love with the app. I'd be like, wow, this is awesome. But as soon as the app were to get flooded with whatever, hundreds and hundreds of men, kind of like the problem that I think Tinder and Hinge and all those apps face is there's more men than more women. What if you kind of took the approach of, building the women first in each city and then allowing the men to kind of flock into it?
No, I definitely agree with, building a platform of where the women are on there. The great part about Tag is the amount of men that are within reach of the women on there depends on where you're at.
Yeah. Okay, true. I did. Yeah.
If you're in an environment where it's 3 to 1 women, 3 women to every guy, there's already less guys to compete with because it only matters about where you physically are. So that's how we combat all of that. So all those issues, there could be 10 to 1 men on the app, but if you put yourself in places that are 3 to 1 women, now you're in a 3 to 1 situation.
I love it. I think you actually are. You're filling a need. You're filling the need of a problem that people are just now starting to realize is there. And I think if lightning, what's the saying? If lightning strikes in a bottle or whatever, I think you could definitely do very, very well with Tag. It's definitely very unique, and it's definitely hard to sell people on a product that's so new and so unique. And I feel like that will always be your biggest issue is marketing it out like that. But man, I think the potential is 100% there. It's a I wouldn't necessarily call it high risk, but it's definitely like middle low risk with a definitely high reward. And I love that. And I think if it hits, man, we could be looking back at this and be like, wow, I interviewed Tobie before he became a billionaire and sold Tag for however much money. But I love it. So, we talked a lot, right now we're at an hour and 15 minutes. So I want to, we talked a lot about the businesses that you've done, what exactly it is that you're doing for them, why you believe in the businesses, why you like it and all that. So to kind of pivot back to the viewer to help them out, I guess one, could you give them a piece of advice that you would give them for just starting out? I know we kind of mentioned it earlier, but or instead of a piece of advice, give them a mistake that they should avoid. It was maybe a mistake that you made in your journey as an entrepreneur. Give them a mistake that you made that they should avoid, and I guess how you fixed the mistake or what you did to combat the mistake.
Yeah, let me think about that.
Yeah, take your time.
Real major mistake. I would say if you're looking to build a venture-backed business, so venture capital, you're raising money, that type of situation, listen to your gut on where the money needs to go, right? Because a lot of people are going to approach you, spend money here, do this for your business, do this commercial when it's very premature of what you want to do. I would say be extremely lean, take as little capital as necessary so you have less people on your cap table, for one. And then always tie into the interest of your customer. Focus primarily on your customer. Don't listen to what other people are doing. How can you give the best experience to your customer? If you do that, you'll be all right.
Okay. And then also, how could you give some advice maybe? Because obviously there's a lot of businesses that a lot of people can just start right away. You know, there's businesses, at least that I think about like mobile car detailing or mobile car washing, power washing, window washing, you know, those kinds of companies where
labor.
you can, and you can make money. You can make really, really good money doing those companies or creating those companies. And then there's companies like the ones that you're kind of doing right now, where it's like Tag, where it's, you know, a big, Claire, where it's a little bit higher risk, high reward. How do you decide that that's what's right for you? Like, how do you decide that that's the type of company, or like what type of company should these kids start out? Should they start out? Should they start out with a company like a power washing company just to kind of, you know, dip their toe in the water?
Sure.
Or how do they decide that, you know, maybe I should build an app, even though an app is kind of expensive to make, you know, whatever. Kind of run me through what advice you would give to someone when they're deciding what type of business, or like how high risk, high reward type of business that they should be going after.
Good question. So this is what I would say to those people that want to start a business. Think about what lifestyle you want for yourself and your family. What impact you want to leave behind. What legacy, if you want to leave one at all. How many people do you want to help? Right, charitably, whether that's your family or outside of your family, similar to the, you know, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Do you want to help people at that magnitude? And if you don't care to help people at that magnitude, if you're just looking to have a nice life where you can afford general things, healthcare, food, housing, you want to be able to support your kids and your family, your wife, all of those things. You don't need to start a Claire or a Tag, build an app. You don't need to do all of those things. You could absolutely build an amazing company, power washing, mobile detailing, all of those things. Now, if you want to be extremely impactful and make moves where you're providing electricity in third world countries, all of those things. If you want to donate millions to cancer research, those types of situations, like I want to do, you know, you might need to dig a little deeper and have greater aspirations for the type of companies that you want to build. So it all depends on your taste level, you know, your appetite, you know, for growth and what you want to do for those around you. You know, I would love to be able to take care of every single person that I'm involved in, friends, family, acquaintances. If we know each other, I want to be able to help you out in anything you want to do. And to do so, I'm going to need to do extremely well for myself, because it's going to cost a lot to help everyone you know. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the person.
Yeah. So I think great advice. Loved it. Unfortunately, I have a feeling that this lawnmower is going to be going for a little bit. So I think, you know, hour and 20 minutes. This was a great podcast. You gave very, very good advice. It's not like you've only worked on one company. You've had multiple experiences with multiple different companies. So I think that really helps out the viewer to kind of show them that your first idea is probably not going to be the idea that you succeed with.
Right.
I think of that with podcasting, honestly. I mean, I would love to have a very successful podcast that makes me a lot of money, that I can kind of, if I, you know, eventually start coming up with other businesses, I can kind of funnel them into this podcast. But it's not, realistically, podcasting is not going to be my end all be all. And so I think, you know, hearing that from you, mm-hmm. I love to hear that advice, because I apply that to my life. But I also think the viewer could also take a lot from that it's okay to fail. I wouldn't necessarily call like that first business that you've done, the dine-in app, I wouldn't mm-hmm. necessarily call that a failure at all. I mean, you did like the school. Right thing. You pivoted it.
It's like school. I was learning.
Yeah, exactly.